Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 10 Ending Explained. Well, we finally got it. After not seeing Gene since Season 5 Episode 1, we've waited almost the length of 2 seasons to see Gene, and we got it in full force with a dedicated episode as we potentially bid farewell to the character in a way that felt somewhat fitting. With only 4 episodes remaining and the last we saw of Gene being in a situation where he was going to tackle his identity of Saul being known by Jeff in Omaha, we saw exactly how he planned on dealing with it, and it allowed Gene to enter familiar territory and ignite parts of his brain that he's not used in a while. So let's jump into the episode and break down all that we can in this Gene special. Here is Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 10 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Episode 10 of Season 6, titled Nippy, opened up with us being introduced to Marion. She was in the supermarket and was going about her day-to-day life. We were shown that she was a lady who didn't take help from anybody, despite it seeming as though their help would have definitely come in handy from time to time. She's a woman of pride and would rather do things herself. This laid down the foundations and alluded to the work that Gene would have to do to be able to get on her side when he did end up encountering her on her route back from the supermarket. His intentions were to get on her side, so that he'd be inside Jeff's house and be able to start his plan in motion of getting Jeff to stay quiet. Gene had encountered her son, Jeff, in Season 5, where he recognized him as Saul Goodman in the shopping mall due to him spending some time in Albuquerque. And Gene, despite phoning up the vacuum repair service to potentially get a new identity, he changed his mind last minute and stated how he'd rather deal with it himself, which is what we saw this entire episode be about. Gene putting Jeff in his place and making it apparent that a connection to Saul Goodman and Gene Takovic is a damaging thing. Why would Gene want to deal with it himself? Maybe because he doesn't mind his life that much now. He's come to be used to the somewhat mundane life compared to what he used to have, and nobody really knowing who he is and for the most part being safe. It would be more effort for him to up and leave rather than just stay. We saw Gene go about his day-to-day routine being the manager at the Cinnabon, but after speaking with Jeff and getting him tied into the scheme that would see them make money, at 9:21 every day just after he closed, he'd go into the security office, drop off a pastry, and would time how long it would take the security guard to eat it. 3 minutes and 16 seconds. This was key to the plan that Gene was devising. He was planning on getting Jeff to break into the department store and steal all of the high-price items, so that they'd be able to sell them and Jeff would be able to make some extra cash. This was done so that Jeff could potentially be convicted of the crime if he were to ever approach Gene again. Multiple crimes were committed, which comes with decades of a sentence. Something that would put anybody off exposing Gene's identity. Gene stated how he'd go to the police and inform them of the crime, and although they'd be mutually connected, it gave Gene some bargaining room. We saw Gene put on Marco's ring prior to all of this, which symbolized that throughout this episode, despite living the persona of Gene, he was truly tapping into the Saul Goodman that he had within him. Elaborate plans, scheming, winning multiple people over such as the department store manager, the security guard, and Jeff's mother. It was a moment that I imagine would have felt quite sentimental to him, almost like taking a trip down memory lane. And we definitely got that in the closing shot of the episode once the plan had been executed. We saw Gene pick up a shirt and tie that would have slotted right into Saul Goodman's eccentric wardrobe, but we saw him place it back on the rack after holding it up against him whilst looking into the mirror. We saw that he gave a look of familiarity, like he so desperately wanted to get it, but he ultimately put it back on the rail. I think that symbolized the fact that he knows that he can never go back to his life as Saul Goodman or Jimmy, but he knows that he still has it within him to tap into the mentality and mindset of them as and when necessary. As much as he so desperately wants to be him and adopt the true version of himself, he knows that he can't. However, one thing that I did notice was that he kept the ring on, showing that an element of Saul Goodman will always be present with him moving forward, and I think that's enough for him. The moment in the episode where we saw the elaborate scheme taking place was one of the tensest moments that I've seen in the show for a while. All the time with Jeff running through the store, eyeing up the products, throwing them in the bag, and hoping the security guard wouldn't turn around, was an extremely tense moment. It was a prime example of how this show delivers tension like no other. All that was happening was somebody putting some clothing in some bags, and all the security guard had to do was turn around for it to be over. There wasn't much that needed to deviate from the usual routine for the plan to go wrong, and that's exactly what we saw. One thing go wrong. Jeff slipped over based on the maintenance guy cleaning the floor. which is something that doesn't usually happen. This was where we saw a prime Saul Goodman, and he had to keep the attention of the guard and tap into some emotion to keep him engaged. We saw Gene discuss how he's alone, he has no wife, no children, his parents are dead, and that his brother is also dead, stating how if he were to die, nobody would care. And despite this being a way of keeping the guard engaged, I think this came from the heart. He referenced his brother being dead in Chuck, and the lack of a wife would have been referencing the heartbreak that Kim caused him. So I do sense that there was more to that than just a way of keeping the guard's eyes fixated on him. In the closing moments of the episode, once the scheme was successfully carried out, we saw a Gene more confident than he'd ever been. Instead of going to sit alone on his bench, he went over to the department store and eyed up the familiar shirt and tie that I mentioned earlier, before hanging it up and walking away, leaving us with a lingering shot of the attire on the rail as Gene gradually walked off. Gene quoted the line, and after all that, a happy ending. I do wonder if this is the end for Gene, and if it will be the final time that we see him. I think it would feel somewhat appropriate if this was the end. The idea that he knows he can be Saul or Jimmy if he needs to be, and the idea that he's still got it in him is something that I think is enough. There's no resolution to Kim in this ending if it is the case, but we may still see more of what happened to her between Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad in the final 3 episodes. I thought this was a really good episode. It was well positioned in the season, and the fact that we got 50 minutes with Gene, with a subtle Breaking Bad reference of Walter White as well, was a good way to follow on from the previous 3 episodes that have been huge. It was exactly what I think was needed with Gene. If this is the end for him, I'm pleased that it seems as though he's somewhat content with where he's at. It mimics life, and this show is good at realism and showing you that dramatic nature isn't always the best way to land an impact. Gene walking off and being stuck in the life that he has to lead and somewhat being content with can be a sad thought, but all of it is due to his previous actions and the mess that he got himself into. It's a harsh reality with a bittersweet, happy ending. With Jeff now being connected to a crime, I doubt he'll approach Gene again following the threat that he made. But if he does, then I feel we could see all hell break loose between the pair, and a different ending to what we've just seen, with Gene's true identity being revealed. Gene has ignited the Saul Goodman within him, something he hadn't done for a while, and although I feel the leaving of the shirt and tie on the rail symbolizes the end, the continuing wearing of the ring does somewhat make me think otherwise. So, there you have it. Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 10, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on Better Call Saul such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you want to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review next, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of episode 10? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.